Hi everyone, this is Penguin Trades. We're looking at the ES futures on a 500 tick chart with a 21 EMA. So this is our overnight high, this is our overnight low. These are our key levels for the day. And I started trading around 8 Central Time, which is right around here. It was soon before this trade right here. And so we have this uptrend, we got a break, and then price made two sharp legs up to a new high. Initially it met that measured move, pushed up, made a double top. We had a couple of reversal attempts, but it really reversed after this uptrend. That second leg, it got a break and then two legs up from there. And so anyway, we have the overnight high here. Price has a very bearish reaction. We go into this downtrend. We get a two-legged break. That's forming a big picture failed second entry, because from the top here, it's a first entry long, then second entry long, and then failure. Waited for price to get below the EMA here, waited for that clear bearish reaction, and it's also the first two attempts at a new high for this uptrend here. So it's a new high failure, and we can tell it's a failure just by how bearish it is after that second leg up. And so there's multiple things going for it. Again, the uptrend attempting to play out. We got the two attempts, the strong bearish reaction, so that's a new high failure. It's a failed second entry. It's reversing off of the overnight high. That's a major reversal area. This is a really great area for a short. We have this measured move. We have plenty of room to that measured move right here. And that's why I like this trade so much. So price continues lower here. We break through this measured move. When price breaks through a measured move like that, I'd like to see two legs up, retesting it for a short. Initially, when price starts pushing up here, we could have gotten something like that, two legs up, retesting that level and off of the key entry point. But it ends up just pushing on down, makes a new low. We get another attempt, very quickly pushes down to a new low again, and then it's just holding right off of that trend line until we get a breakout of this range here. So the highs were forming, the lows were forming. It was going into a pretty clear range. Now when price breaks out, yes, it's very common to see a fade, and you can look to get in on it. But in this case here, we're also still in that downtrend, so we need to be careful about buying. What I'd like to see is price to push up, make a couple attempts down, basically just go into a failed second entry and then give a long. But it just doesn't set up anything great here. It breaks out a little bit. We immediately get way below the EMA, and then it rejects the lows here, pushes down again. So it's making those two attempts at a new low since the break of this downtrend. Again, we break here, first attempt lower, second attempt lower, and then failure. It just doesn't offer a great entry. We don't know for sure it's going to spike up like that. So I skipped that here. I'd like to see the price actually hold above the EMA and the range low. And then we get this here. We have a new high. And then it looks like we might have a good trade here because we have a second entry long off of the lows. However, the reason that I don't like anything there personally is because this measured move was just met. So two legs up. This is the bigger picture break for this downtrend. So initially, the break was just here. We have the two small attempts at a new low, and then we get the failure. But that failure is just creating a bigger picture two-legged break. And so the chances of price making a new low are a lot higher at that point. And so I would not take a long right here off of the first two attempts down off of that measured move. Price could easily make a second leg down just as big as those initial two. So that's why I don't like anything there. Price does continue higher. It reaches the high of that range and also this trend line right here, this wider trend line, and we get this push down. That is basically just a break between these combined legs. So uptrend, break, and then we push up to a new high, making that second leg up. Price has that measured move right around the retest of that measured move. And so this is an area that we can look for a short. So just to be clear, this downtrend has a break at this point. We have also a break of this thinner downtrend. It's a two-legged break. The measured move is right at the retest of that previous down measured move. So there's all sorts of reasons to want to get a short here. Price ends up spiking through. You can see we have this, or actually I don't have it drawn. I removed it. But we have this channel going up here. We get a break, and then right here we get our first attempt higher and then our second attempt higher. So right here is when this uptrend plays out. We get the two attempts at a new high. Off of the high, we have a first entry long and then a second entry long down to here, and then this is the failure. So I only liked it after that strong failure, getting back below the EMA, and it's basically just to make a new low for this downtrend break, which let me just get rid of some of this. So So anyway, it's a retest of this measured move level. It's a break of the downtrend. We can expect price to at least attempt a new low. And so when it pushes into this failed second entry right there, I really liked that. And we had this measured move in play, and it only had to go just barely through it, which I don't mind on a reversal here, which, speaking of letting it go a tick through, that has a lot to do with this upcoming trade I'm going to talk about. Generally, it doesn't matter if you have a measured move level and your target is a tick beyond it, it really just doesn't matter. If the trade is a good context and it's a good setup, then there's really no problem with doing that. In this case here, I mainly just wanted to get out before this trend line. So this blue trend line working higher, I wanted price to get out before price reaches it. We already had it off of those two swings there, and we had plenty of room down to that level from that target. So that was my main concern here. Price touches that level, and then we get this spike up, and then it really gets choppy from there. It ends up going into a whole nother range right there. But we spike up, we get 2 attempts to reverse. It ends up holding at that previous support, or I should say resistance, and then it starts pushing on down. We don't get any clear entries off of it. It is a second entry short, but it is also bullish, spiking up. It's right off of that key entry point right there. It's just a very, very conflicted area. Not to mention at first, this range is more like this because we had those lows stacking up from the previous high. And so it wasn't the best. And after this trade, when it faded back or pushed back in here, retested it, it just keeps confirming this range. And so it's not the greatest area to take a short, especially right after we just got these 2 legs down. We're getting that bullish reaction. It could just continue with that uptrend from there. So anyway, it does end up pushing down. We get a couple legs down, and we get the second larger leg down. We have to combine these legs because remember, now that this measured move has been met and we made 2 attempts to reverse, the second that the reversal higher fails, we have to combine these legs. And so we'll drag it down from the high to the low. This is the 2-legged break, and then that's our second leg down. So just to show here, I'm going to copy this over. And then we have this perfect measured move right there. Let me get that drawn perfectly there. So to the tick, price reverses higher. So it's very important to understand these measured move levels. I understand that it can look confusing, especially with there being multiple legs inside of these larger legs. But if you just you study the chart, you can really start to see this. So anyway, again, this is all one single leg down here. All of this, even though there's 3 clear legs, it's all one leg. We get this 2-legged break, second leg down to the tick. We get this reversal higher, and then I liked this failed second entry right here, which I'm going to remove some of this to make it clearer to see. Basically, we got the second leg down. The measured move was met. Initially, when price reacted, we got this very bullish push higher. I just didn't want to enter immediately on the bullish push because, it did reach a measured move, but it's also a conflicted area. I just wanted to see a better setup. I wanted to see an actual, an entry, like a failed second entry. And so when price pushed up here, it very quickly made a double bottom. We get another push up. At that point, it's clearly holding on this here. But we can still see that to the tick, we have first entry short, second entry short, and then failure. And then right when at the failure, it managed to push above this short-term trend line right here. And that's when I liked entering. I did use a limit order because, again, we did have that support up there. I didn't want to enter too high. I didn't want to expect it to push on through that just because it was pretty clear. And also the other concern was we have this measured move higher right here, and I didn't want to mix pushing the target through the measured move and the resistance right here, and so that's why I used a limit order. There was no problem getting filled on that, and then price does end up continuing higher. It spikes up, makes this double top. We get a very sharp reaction to that, basically just continuing this sideways range, and then we finally managed to break out of these highs here. So basically, and then at this point, after these couple legs up, price attempts to reverse, it fails, continues higher. That's when we draw this wider leg, copy it over, we get this second leg up. Price breaks out of the range high and this measured move here. And at this point, this blue uptrend has a clear break and a push to a new high. So at this point, the blue uptrend is played out. We're much more likely for a reversal, especially because it's also a fade of this range. When price breaks out of a range, you're very likely to see a fade attempt. I mean, it's just how ranges work. They go from side to side. And so what we want to see here is 2 attempts to fade with a strong failure. So we can look to get in on the fade failure. Now, initially, it starts correcting here, and we don't want to enter directly into this level here because it's already pushing far below. We're getting below the overnight high. It's not a clear 2-legged retest. It's already getting bearish, pushing below this measured move level before it's even making a clear 2-legged move. And you can see, it does tick higher there, and you have a second leg down, but it is very thin. It's basically all just this one this one channel here, just a channel, overshoots, leads to a strong break, and then we get a much clearer 2-legged move here. And so this I liked a whole lot better. I liked this as a measured move trade because we just got more bullish confirmation. We rejected this high right here, and initially as price was pushing higher, I was actually looking to get short. As it was pushing higher right here, I was already looking to get short. I had a limit order up here to get short, and then it didn't quite reach it. Remember, there's a major red measured move. This red measured move is right here. And so I was looking to short that, and then before it could reach it, we started pushing lower, and then as it made this as it made this correction higher before the second leg down, that's when I switched gears and got my limit order to buy ready right here, because we still have room to this measured move. You can be it's supposed to be there. You can be anticipating a short, and then say, something changes, it doesn't quite reach it, you still have room to that level, and then you get a long entry. You can still look to ride price up to that level. It's overall bullish, even though the uptrend has played out at this point with a break in a new high. We're getting these, we just had a bullish reaction to this level here, continuing with the overall uptrend. So that's why I like buying here. Now, if price had met this measured move, I would definitely not have bought this as a measured move trade. I would have waited for price to get above the EMA and then look to enter above. But since we still had this magnet, these measured move levels are magnets in play, I had no problem buying it right off the measured move to continue with the overall uptrend. So price continues up, we reach this measured move, and as soon as it reaches this measured move, I shorted right on it. And you can see what happens here. So the measured move is met. It's a major 2-legged break for this downtrend. We have overall great reversal context because this uptrend has a break, new high, actively reversing down, and then this is the 2-legged break of the initial reversal leg. So I'm basically just looking to get short on the second leg down. Now, when I'm shorting here, I know that we're likely to start the major second leg down from there, but I don't know that for sure. All I care about is riding price down to retest this level here. Okay, so I'm not expecting the full-on reversal. I'm not expecting the full-on second leg down. I'm just expecting price to be bearish enough to give a retest of this support level. I'm not expecting it to go through it. Just expecting it to retest this level, and then it might continue up and create a bigger picture leg later. And so that's why I have my target here. Now, I didn't play this the best way, because what ended up happening was, like I mentioned earlier, generally it's not a big deal for your target, for price to need to tick through your target beyond a support level. Price had been chopping up and down around this level. It only had really these 2 bounces right there. And so I wasn't too concerned about price, not, pushing through a tick. So, I never mind whenever, say, the target is on a support level or a measured move level. If it needs to go through a couple ticks, I don't mind. Now, I should have considered a couple other things here, though. As price was pushing down, not only was price overall in an uptrend, it was generally overall bullish. It was also reaching this measured move right here. So that really is 2 things. And I was thinking this in the moment, like I might want to take this a tick early at 19 ticks, because price has to go through this support level in order to tick through the 20 tick target. And so basically price ended up just spiking up, stopped me out. And so it's whatever. I really should have just considered, I shouldn't be combining the overall bullish uptrend with the fact that it's at this measured move. I shouldn't be expecting it to push on through that much, because, when price reaches this measured move, it would have to go 3 ticks through that, and then it would have to go 1 tick through the level. So, I really should have just considered how bullish it was with this measured move in play, especially because the intention is just to ride it down to this level here. When I set my stop, I don't ever mess around with it. I don't move it, and I always go for 1-to-1 minimum. It is almost never an issue needing it to tick through, but I really should have considered that with this trade here, because anyway, price did just basically bounce off my target, went straight up to my stop, stopped me out, and then it plummeted straight back down. So, what sucks is it stopped me out to the tick. But anyway, so price continues up here. We, as price, when price starts reacting this bullish after a retest, you want to be careful because you still have that measured move level here, but it ends up cutting through it like butter. So when that happens, what I'd like to see is 2 legs down, retesting this measured move level. Now, I'd like to see that before it touches this upper trend line, because if it touches the upper trend line, then, you got to play the trend rules. When price comes off one side, you could expect them to reach the other side, or to at least attempt to reach the other side. And so that's why I'd like to see that 2-legged retest before it touches that. But it ends up spiking up, it overshoots the channel, stops me out, and then starts plummeting down. So as price pushes down here, you can look to get short on a reversal. You'll just want to consider any possible wider trend lines. You'll want to consider this measured move level, of course. I'd like to see price push through, make a couple legs back, retest it for a short, and then get in on that second leg down. It just ends up pushing on down here. We break this trend, this wider trend. It doesn't bounce for a third time, like it doesn't have a third confirming bounce, but when an initial trend gets a break and starts playing out with a push to a new high, you can always draw the wider trend to see how it ends up fitting. And it initially broke, but very quickly came back, retested it with a great bullish hold, which is, of course, the last trade I got here. So anyway, the reason I like this right here, again, this uptrend got a break. It immediately started pushing up to a new high, making that new high attempt, and then it made a 2-legged retest, perfectly measured, right off of that key entry point. We got a great bullish reaction, and that's when I entered long, going just for 1-to-1, looking to get in on this second leg up. And yeah, so that's why I like that trade here. Not expecting it to go any more than 1-to-1. That's around that previous resistance level as well, which is mainly to do with the target and not going for any more here, even after this very strong continuation. After it's basically a reversal failure here. Price is pushing up, it attempts to reverse after these couple major legs up, and we get a strong failure continuing with wider uptrend. So I really liked that here. I would have liked to go for a little more, but we do got to consider that right there. So anyway, price continues up. We get this second leg up, goes through the measured move, goes up to the overnight high. Initially, we get this bearish reaction. This is a good spot for a failed second entry. You just, again, what you want to consider these wider trend lines. If price could push lower, and let me just draw this out. If price could push lower here and make a couple legs up, then not only would that be a failed second entry, which is a reversal pattern and a good place for one because it's off of the overnight high, but it would also be a break of this uptrend. So a break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher, and then it would be right at the failure. So it would be confluent with the failed second entry, and that's what I would like to see. But it ends up just pushing up, very sharp spike out. We got this first leg retesting. I would like to see 2 clear legs retesting the overnight high for a long to continue with the breakout. It's not, you don't want to buy it on excuse me, on a single leg retest. My voice is kind of going today. So you don't want to buy it on a single leg retest. You want to see a clear 2-legged retest. When price breaks out, basically of anything, whether it's an overnight level, a range, and even a trend, if it's like sideways enough, then you'll often get 2 fade attempts. And so price generally attempts things in moves of 2s. That's how second entries form. And so you can expect 2 attempts to fade. After the second attempt, that's when you're more likely to get a much stronger failure. And so that's what I'd like to see. It could still make it. Whenever you have a very sharp spike up, and then there's a lot of wick, by the way, oftentimes it's not really part of the trend, and the measured moves will be more accurate. I'm not saying the wicks are not important. What I'm saying is that during super high volume areas, when you have a lot of wick, it often doesn't matter. So what I'd like to see is price to keep pushing higher, and then we'd have this second leg down. The measured move would be down to there. But what I'd actually want to see is, so say price continues up to here, we could just get a smaller two-legged retest. So then it would be downtrend, break, and then 2 attempts at a new low, where you can then look to get long on the new low failure. And if you have the 2 attempts, then that's really all you need. If you're getting the good hold above, it doesn't have to fully play out at that point. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I'm going to attach the trade recording is either on the front or the end of this one. And yeah, I really appreciate you watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.